Look at those gorgeous purple bearded irises. So you'd like to divide and transplant your irises? Well, let me help you with that. I'm no expert, but I have done it and it has worked well. And just look at all this gorgeousness. Hi folks, I'm Kim at Olive City Permaculture, and though I mostly grow veggies and fruits, having a big garden and a huge fruit and nut orchard as well as an olive orchard, I love flowers too. And transplanting these purple bearded irises was a big project I took on 2 years ago. And this is one small result of that project. Let's take a look at some more results. These are just a few of the bearded irises that I transplanted 2 years ago, in the spring, yes. And these ones were experiments. They were so tiny, I really didn't think they would grow, but I stuck them in some pots and still in pots today. They are definitely blooming pretty. Just look at those colors. And here's more right next to them. They also are ready to bloom. Now here is the original spot where I took out just a small, maybe 8x6 patch of bearded irises. They were growing under the deck I had there then, which has since been removed. And when I replanted a few there, they have done very well and are just starting to bloom this week. The main show though is in the area to the north, right in front of where the pool used to be, and now the future site of my fire pit circle. Now you can ignore the piles of wood randomly living over there by the falling down fence. That's all part of a project I have going on this next week. We're replacing the fence, and the wood came from trimming the tree and from tearing down a tree house. But right here, all those little plants that I laid out in that nice little pattern have gorgeously bloomed for the second year in a row. No, they didn't bloom the first year, as I figured they wouldn't do since I transplanted them in February. But last year in 2022, they did. And here they are again. The whole pattern all the way around, semicircle, has done beautifully. Here's the other side. Looking lovely. Of course, it's gonna look a lot better once I get the wood out and the fence up and the seating and fire pit in. But the flowers, these lovely bearded irises, are doing very, very well. In fact, I was super pleased to see that removing the pool, which means they get a lot more sun instead of going into shade at 2, they go into shade more like at 6. It hasn't bothered them at all. Probably because their blooming happens before we get the intense heat that comes the rest of the year. Now I have more of the bearded irises that I transplanted that day 2 years ago in other places around the property, other microclimates, near different plants, just in different settings altogether. And you know what? They have all done very, very well. So I encourage you, if you didn't get around to dividing and transplanting your irises way back in the fall when you're, quote, supposed to, you can do it in the spring. And I'll put a link to that original video so that you can see just how I did it and how you can simply and successfully do it too. My mother would have loved this. Purple was her favorite color. I would definitely be dividing some and putting them in pots and giving them to her, that's for sure. And look at this pale one growing in between the wire fencing by my chicken's olive orchard. I'll have to take care of that. Well, these were the rhizomes that I nearly threw away at the end. They didn't show any sign of life. They didn't have any buds. They were just leftover rhizome material. And I thought, well, I'll just throw them all in over here and see what happens. And that's what happened. Now, they didn't do anything last year, but 2 years later, they've spread enormously. Obviously, they're way too crowded, and they are about to bloom. So I will definitely be dividing these in the fall and spreading them probably along the whole length of this bed and making this just basically a bearded iris and calendula bed. Got some seedlings there I need to transplant, and calendula, it turns out, loves this spot, and none of the squirrels that occasionally make their way through from the orchard seem to be bothering the calendula at all. So that's great because I want to be making some more salve with it. But yes, I would suggest that even when you find what looks like a rhizome that probably isn't going to do anything, you don't see any buds on it at all, rather than throwing it away, why don't you do a little experiment and just see what happens? Because what happens, well, it might be a very good thing. Past the Mexican poppies. Do you see what I see? Right straight ahead. Look at that. Bearded irises. Gorgeous shades of purple. I hope you all enjoyed this update on the bearded iris divide in the spring and transplant project. And I hope if you haven't yet tried dividing and transplanting irises, you'll see from this video and the one I did 2 years ago that it's not hard at all. I think you can definitely tell that it worked and that you can do it too. So why not give it a try before you know it? You'll have so many bearded irises. You'll be spreading them all over your property, enjoying their beauty. And maybe sharing some with your friends too. Thanks for joining me today, everyone. I will see you again next time with a garden tour. If you haven't yet subscribed and you like this kind of content, why don't you subscribe now? Also, hit that like button so YouTube will share this video with more people who might want to learn how to transplant their irises. And remember, you can create the garden and the life that you dream of. So why not start right now?